You're listening to an audio recording by Change My Relationship, featuring licensed marriage and family therapist and author Karla Downing. These audios are designed to provide you with practical solutions based on biblical truths for all your relationships.
So, truths about emotions. And we have to say this because sometimes we tweak this a little bit in the church and we give people misunderstandings about emotions, and it can mess us up. So first of all, feelings aren't good or bad, including anger, okay? Including jealousy.
It's good.
Okay? All feelings are God-given because we are made in His image. Nothing we feel is different than what God feels. He feels every single thing we feel, including contempt, disgust, hate, anger, jealousy, okay? All of the things that we think are bad, we shouldn't feel. Feeling that your feelings are bad and that you shouldn't feel certain feelings will mean that you will repress them or suppress them or rationalize them, and you will miss out on what they are telling you. Because feelings are information. Just like the sensory that you have in your skin, you can feel pain, you can feel light touch, you can feel deep touch, and you can feel warm and hot. Why can you feel those things? Because if you could not, you would hurt yourself. You would put your hand in a fire and not know it was being burned because you would not be able to feel pain. The other thing you can feel is pain. You have receptors that allow you to differentiate all those things. You have emotions that allow you to differentiate all kinds of things, okay? Important for you to be able to do that. Feelings aren't sinful. Actions are sinful, okay? But the feelings, you can't control the feelings coming up. They are something that you are responding to, something going on in your environment. Feelings are triggered by sensations and events. Feelings are related to thoughts, and we'll talk about how you can change your thoughts to change your feelings. The limbic system is the center of feelings in the lower brain. Lower brain meaning what some people call the animal brain or the reptilian brain. It's the automatic brain. Autonomic. You cannot control it. You're not even really aware of it. It happens split second when you are processing sensations and events. The lower brain is the source of feelings that come up that are triggered from past events and memories that are fragmented in your brain that you cannot control, okay? Sensory information triggers the autonomic nervous system, which is actually in your brainstem connected to your lower brain, to fight, flee, freeze, or fawn before you recognize what is happening. You literally split second automatic. Fawn is the new thing that they talk about from the autonomic nervous system. It used to be fight and flight, and then it was fight, flight, and freeze, and now it's fight, flight, freeze, and fawn. And fawn is the thing that when you sense danger, you automatically kind of capitulate and give in and do whatever the person wants to protect yourself. Okay, so to me it feels, yeah, and you allow it, and but you're doing it, and yeah. And so to me, that one is a little bit more, it's not quite as automatic as the other ones. I feel like you kind of go through more of a process, but it would come from trauma. And trauma is related to feeling in danger or feeling like you're, afraid. And that's your automatic response to that to protect yourself. So it does fit in there, but in some ways to me, it's a little more thoughtful, but you will notice yourself doing it like quickly, like giving in before, instead of running, instead of fighting, you're just like, okay, we'll just go along. Okay, so let's see. Thinking about the feeling including recognizing it, includes in the higher brain's prefrontal cortex. Now, each of you have a fallback feeling, which is the feeling that's easiest for you to express and the one you feel quickly when something happens, especially if you weren't allowed to feel as a child or if you've gone through trauma. And that, like for me, I was raised in an alcoholic home and I was allowed to feel anger, but I wasn't allowed to feel sadness. And so I wasn't allowed to feel weakness because I was the oldest child and I was the one that had to take care of everything and take care of my mother and protect her and all that. So I could feel anger. So it took me a very, very long time to feel sadness and hurt. I never felt hurt. I immediately went to anger. Hurt felt very vulnerable. Sadness was kind of useless because it didn't get me anywhere, and anger did. So I felt like I had a lot of anger and a lot of like energy with anger. And I also had the misbelief from my childhood that my anger could fix things and could change things. So I fought really hard in my marriage to use my anger to change things. And so that's a whole nother day to talk about. Okay, so how can we be emotionally intelligent? Okay, there's 4 steps. Number 1, you have got to feel the emotion. That means you don't repress it. So that's where the Christian idea of some emotions are bad is really not good for you, because then you will be like, ooh, I can't feel that one. That one's sin. That's not good. You don't want to spiritualize it. Okay? Christians spiritualize way too much stuff. We are humans in a world. It's the whole idea of separating spiritual and material came from the Greek culture. The Hebrew culture, all things were spiritual. Everything. That's why you have scriptures in the Old Testament that tell you that when you're sitting, when you're walking, when you're rising, when you're eating, you are to talk about God. You are to your children. You're to think about God. You're to everything's together. We eat, we worship God when we eat, we worship God when we sleep, we worship God when we walk, we worship God when we work, we worship God when we, everything, okay? So the separation is not necessarily what God wants us to do. We don't need to spiritualize everything. We don't have to spiritualize. Every feeling is not a message from God, okay? It's not a Holy Spirit telling you something. In some churches, it would be some type of a prophecy or a word of knowledge. No, they are feelings. They're even coming from your lower brain, a lot of them. They're not the devil, okay? Your feelings are not the devil whispering in your ear, okay? So again, you don't need to repress them. It's not necessarily God. It's just a part of being human. Now, sit with it. You will hear people say, just sit with your emotions. Why? Well, because the whole bad emotions you don't want to sit with. You want to run with them. You want to busy yourself. You want to think about something else. You don't want to sit with anger. You don't want to sit with pain. You don't want to sit with hurt. You don't want to sit with sadness. You don't want to sit and feel the jealousy and try to figure out what's that about. So, for instance, one thing with doing this with jealousy, for instance, if we were to say, oh, jealousy is bad, jealousy is sin, you know, don't be envious, don't do any of that. Okay, so I need to repress that. That's sinful. That's the devil trying to make me unhappy and discontent, and discontent is wrong, and I'm supposed to be content with anything. God's telling me, or the Holy Spirit's telling me to get that out. You're not going to look at the jealousy, and you're going to feel shame. Okay? And shame does nothing more than make you hide and make you feel bad about yourself and make you feel not good. So let me tell you, in my ministry is to Christians in difficult relationships. What is something when you're going through a lot of pain, what is something that you will feel? I'll give you an example. I've had a difficult marriage and I have 3 daughters and they're all adults now, but because of my marriage and some of the problems within our family and the dysfunction, there's been a lot of, my daughters have had difficulties, and there's been times when things have not been great with my husband, with my daughters. So one time, probably about 6 years ago, There was kind of a fallout between, my husband didn't like my daughter's husband, and for reasons, but still, it was a breach, and it was causing a breach with my daughter, who was the mom of my 2 grandchildren, which are very important to me, on top of my daughter. So we walked, and it was a time where there was some pain over that, and I was struggling with it. And so we walked into a fundraiser in some person's wealthy home, and the first thing we walk into is a gigantuan picture, okay, about the size of that wall, beautiful portrait of their 3 adult daughters with the mother and father looking, ooh, all like so happy and lovely together. What do you think happened to me? I had somebody who could take like a sword and just like, you know, right through my gut, and it hurt really bad. But the emotion that I felt was jealousy as part of that. Now, if I was to have repressed that and said, quit being covetous, quit being envious, you just broke one of the 10 commandments, I wouldn't have gotten, first of all, I would have shamed myself instead of recognized, you know, that was painful, and that was a reminder. What happens to you when you're in a season of pain? If you're going through infertility, what hurts every time you see somebody with a baby? It hurts, and you experience something that feels like grief mixed with jealousy, but it isn't really jealousy per se. You're not coveting that person's baby and hating them. You are grieving. So, but literally, when I posted a video about that up on YouTube, I had people write me and say, oh my gosh, you just made sense of my world that I'm in right now, and no one's ever told me that. And you shame yourself. So we have to understand that. Do you think God doesn't get it? Oh my gosh. When Leah was not loved by Jacob, Scripture says that God blessed her womb and gave her all these babies, and she named them saying, God sees me, God understands. You really don't think God gets it when you're like sad and grieving? Oh my, he totally gets it. He says so. And so we so miss it when we tell ourselves that emotions are wrong and we shame ourselves. So be careful, because what you do to yourself, what will you do? You will do that to your children. Okay? And you don't want to do that to your children, because you want to give your children the freedom to feel. And we'll go through how to deal with emotions in your children. So sit with it means that you sit with it. It means you don't get up and vacuum. You don't go out and run. Some people, when they're in their pain, go drink alcohol or smoke pot or engage in a sexual addiction. Okay, they do a lot of things with your pain and with your feelings, but even with anger. It's like, sit with your anger. You know, you don't be angry and sin not. You don't have to lash out, but you can feel it. And so it's really good, and it is a discipline to be able to sit with your emotion and figure out what's going on with it. So you got to let yourself feel it. And, you know, it takes some when we're talking about emotional intelligence, we're really talking about emotional maturity. And a lot of people don't have it. A lot of men don't have it because they've grown up with the message that they're not supposed to have feelings, and they're supposed to stuff them all, and that's manly, and that is part of being tough and masculine, when they can still be masculine and strong and feel, because they need their feelings and to work through them just like we do. There's no difference, right? And the more that they don't, the more that it messes them up. And when you don't do this with your feelings, they are there. They don't go away. They just come out in ugly ways, okay? Towards everyone around you and towards yourself. And pain and repressed and unresolved feelings is the cause of most addictions. Okay? And most dysfunctional behavior. And when you shame yourself for all this, you get up defenses, and defenses cause problems in relationships. So you got to do this. So the next one is to identify the emotion. You got to label it. So you got to have a vocabulary for labeling emotions. And if you haven't had the freedom to identify your emotions and you were told to repress them and not feel them when you were a child, then some people say to me in their 60s, I don't know what I feel. Like, I don't know. You do? Not know?
That's what I had to go through.
You had to go through that.
9 years of counseling and
Yeah.
reading to figure it out.
Because you were told as a child,
Well, even as an adult.
and as an adult in your marriage, probably, right?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah. And yeah. So you don't want to do that. And then you numb yourself. And then you do get to the point where, and that's
Breaks down.
exactly.
I
And
have so many autoimmune disorders.
because of all of that. Exactly.
That's what happened.
Yeah. And you miss out on being fully human. I mean, it's C.S. Lewis wrote about his grief and he was like, oh, would it have better been to not have loved than to not feel this? No, like it's all part of being human and the experience and the opening yourself up. So label it. If you don't know, the 4 main emotions are mad, sad, glad, afraid. Okay. So if you got to start there, you ask yourself, am I mad, sad, glad, or afraid? And those are 4 big categories. Now, all over the internet, there are things called feeling wheels. They are very colorful, very pretty. They have main feelings, and then they have sub-feelings to those main feelings, and then on the outside, they have sub-feelings to those. And you get all kinds of different feelings. So if you struggle with identifying feelings and you want to get even better and better to be more specific, because this really is a experiential thing where you have to process and start getting really good at that. And it's important. So feeling wheels. And then you can also ask yourself, where and how is it expressed in my body? Like, is it energy? Does it feel like low? Is it in my stomach? Is it kind of tingly? Is it here? Is it constricting my throat? Kind of feel where it is in your body. And that sometimes gives you an idea of what it could be. And also, as you get good about knowing how things are expressed in your body, you will have like awarenesses of feelings that are coming up that you maybe didn't recognize as a feeling. And it'll help you to be more self-aware of what's going on with you. The third one is to process the emotion. Okay, you have to own it as yours. No one can make you feel a certain way. You mean somebody can't make me mad? Somebody can't make me frustrated? No. Someone can act a certain way, and that person is responsible for their behavior, 100%. Person did something, was kind of jerky or not nice, but how you feel about it, yours. And the reason that it's yours is not everyone will react exactly the same way or to exactly the same degree. And how you feel and how you react is also related to your state of being. Are you hungry, angry, lonely, tired, stressed? Okay. Is it reminding you of something in the past that your lower brain is pulling up and that's a trigger and you're responding? Okay. So you have to own it as yours. Think about it. Really, that's where your upper brain, your higher brain comes in. Thinking about it, what's going on with me, asking yourself some questions. There are things called primary and secondary emotions. Anger is a secondary emotion. Anger is not the first emotion. Anger comes from something else that happens to you. Same with sadness, typically. Something happens and you feel something like rejection, disappointment, and then what happens is you experience that as that hurt my feel. That's why we say that hurt my feelings. What hurt my feelings? That you just rejected me or you just put me down, right? So anger and sadness are often, anger usually secondary, sadness often secondary. So know that it could even be something under that that's a little more specific that you might need to identify. So, and then you ask yourself, was there a trigger? Was that a trigger to something from my past, something that happened to me when I was a child. My parent looked at me that way, and now my husband just looked at me that way, and I'm ready to hit him with a frying pan. Okay? And he's like, what? Like, what? I just looked at you. It's like, well, no. You didn't just look at me, you looked at me. And you're like, okay. So that's the little lower brain, reptilian brain that's going, okay, that's a big deal. You better pay attention to that. I'm going to protect you from that. I'm going to get you geared up. I'm going to make you ready to hit him with a frying pan, because that's going to protect you when it's really not all about him and what he did. So you want to ask yourself, where could it be coming from? And then you want to ask yourself, what is it telling you? So is it telling you something like that you're in a lot of pain? Is it telling you that you've got a lot going on that you need to attend to? Is it telling you that that argument that you had a couple days ago that you just brushed aside and you said was no big deal is really still bothering you with your husband, and you are going to have to talk about it? Is it telling you that, what is it? It's telling you that you're working too hard, you're overwhelmed. It's telling you something. And the whole reason that you need to recognize and pay attention to your emotions, because you need to know what they're telling you. Because if you ignore them, it is not going to be good for you in the long run or your relationships. Then the fourth one is to choose how to respond to the emotion. Now, again, it's your responsibility. You all in Scripture, we're talking about basically things happen to us, and, we're not going to get up to heaven and go, standing before the Lord and say, all that stuff that I said to that person, you can just ignore that because that was a really crappy person. That person always pushed my buttons, and so nothing I said to him mattered. No, that's not the way it's going to happen. We are responsible to choose how we respond to no matter what happens to us. That is our responsibility. Therefore, we have to decide, we have to be emotionally intelligent, emotionally mature, and choose how to respond to our emotions. That is going to use our higher brain's prefrontal cortex. We're going to be thinking, engaging, so this is not automatic, this is the opposite. Ephesians 4:26 tells us to be angry and sin not. So we can be angry, again, remember, the feeling is not wrong, but the behavior can be. So feeling anger is not wrong. But how we respond to the anger, hitting our husband with the frying pan, that would be wrong. Okay? Telling him about what was bothering us would not be wrong. And then to confront or not, it's your choice. Sometimes Christians take speaking the truth in love to the extreme. And I have to say everything. No, you don't. You can choose. Is this a good thing to confront about or not? Is this a little thing? Can I overlook it? Can I let it go? It's a man's glory to overlook an offense. Can I let this go? How important is it? Maybe I don't want to. Or maybe I'm dealing with a really difficult person that it's not going to go well if I bring this up, and I'm going to decide that my own mental serenity is more important than having to speak the truth about this, that I'm choosing not to. I'm not going to. So it's always a choice about whether or not you want to. When you do, using I statements to minimize defensiveness is the best, and you've heard those before. I felt rejected when you didn't answer me. I felt angry over the way you handled yourself with our son. I feel hurt when you were harsh with me, and I feel myself shutting down with you. Those are I statements. Okay, those focus on you, not necessarily what the other person is doing. It might be about how you react to what is, but it's not you ignored me, you were harsh with me, you were mean with our son. Those are you statements. Those usually don't go as well. Okay, now using I statements does not mean that the person won't respond defensively, because you can't control it. And some people, especially a lot of men, number one thing I get is women telling me, my husband's harsh. My husband is defensive. Anytime I bring anything up, he is defensive. And that's another topic. But you can try I statements to minimize defensiveness. Now, the next one is to change your thoughts. That is an option of how to respond to the emotion. Why is that an option? Because emotions sometimes come from sensations and events, but they also come from thoughts. And here's how that happens. Changing your thoughts can change your emotion. So you're driving, or let's say I was driving here in a hurry this morning, and somebody pulls out in front of me, and I slam on my brakes, and I barely miss hitting that person, okay? Now, if my thought is, so when something happens, if my thought is, you jerk, then my emotion is going to be irritation and anger, and my action is going to be to give him a hand gesture or a mean look or like, are you kidding? You know, kind of thing. If instead my thought is, oh my gosh, I've done that. Yeah, I'm glad I didn't hit him. Or I've done that. I hope that person he's probably having a bad day. I've done that too. Then I'm going to be like, it's okay, it's okay. And my emotion is going to be compassion. So sometimes a thought is literally the thing that triggers your emotion, and you can literally change your emotional environment, your emotions, by just changing your thoughts. Your mother-in-law annoys the heck out of you, okay, every time you're around her. Well, it's highly possible that some of that annoyance is related to the higher brain of she's so ignorant, or she babies my husband. My mother-in-law used to do that. Is he okay? I'd be like, he has a cold. The next day, is he okay? He still just has a cold. Okay, now, so, right? So if I would have changed my thought and said, oh, how nice, you know, she cares about us. Instead it was, oh, she's babying him and he's a big man and he does not need to be babied. Quit calling me to baby my husband, besides he's mine. Okay? Thoughts change your feelings. Changing those thoughts would definitely change my feeling of annoyance when she calls to ask about her baby, right? So it works, totally. So if you're feeling some things and you're not liking them, you need to pay attention to the millions of thoughts that go through your mind every single day. So the next one is, maybe you're going to change your circumstances. Maybe your emotions are going to tell you, you got to make some changes. Okay? You got to not work as much. You got to slow down. You got to quit trying to keep your house so perfectly clean. You got to quit making 4-course meals when it makes you completely cranky and irritable the whole time. Okay? Maybe your emotions are going to lead to some changes. And that's the whole purpose of emotions, is to tell you that something's going on, just like all those sensations in your arm are going to tell you when you just got cut. I don't like clothes and shoes. So I wear shorts, I wear short sleeves, I wear no shoes a lot. And you're lucky I wore shoes today. So I go out and I do stuff in the garden with sleeveless tops or short sleeves, and I'm in the rose bushes. And I'm always scratching myself. Well, I don't have to look at my arm and watch the thorn scratch my arm to know I just got scratched. Okay? I already know I got scratched, and I'm going to get a nice lot of blood that's going to be running down my arm, just because that's telling me something. Same thing with your emotions. Okay, we're going to shift now, and we're going to talk about teaching the same thing to your children. So, one, your children are not adults, so remember that. Respond appropriately to their ages. So this is all different age levels. And so these are the things that you're going to do to teach your children to be emotionally intelligent. First one is you're going to model healthy emotional intelligence. Everything that you do and tell your children, you know, what they see is going to teach them a lot more than what you say. So you're going to model that. You're going to know your child's personality, and I brought some stuff I'm going to help you with that. You want to allow them to express all their feelings. So when I raised my kids, it was on James Dobson, and you did not allow your children to say, I hate you, mommy. You disciplined from that, right? And you didn't allow your kids to have fits and all that kind of thing. And I'm so different with my grandchildren, right? If my grandchildren were to say, I hate you, Grandma, I would say, sounds like you got a lot going on. Okay, or, yeah, I know you're really upset, aren't you? I know you feel that. Because when we feel hate, a lot of times it doesn't mean we hate the person. It means we actually love the person and we're connected to the person, but we're feeling really bad and we're really struggling and we have really intense emotions. So you want to let them feel everything. And now, again, feeling is okay. A teenager swearing at you and screaming in your face, not okay. But the feelings that they have behind that, okay, right? So that's what we want to get across. We have different ways of doing that, saying that or expressing that. Being angry is okay. Being frustrated, throwing a toy and hitting your brother in the face is not okay, all right? So validate their feelings. What does it mean to validate? Validate means to say it's authentic. So when you get a valid birth certificate in the mail, it means that it's authentic. So basically, when you validate, all you're saying to your child is, and this is you're teaching, you're saying, wow, looks like you're really frustrated. Or looks like you're having a really bad day. Or, wow, are you really sad? You look like you're really sad to me. Or, wow, I can tell that you're really upset right now about what happened, aren't you? And so you're giving your child feedback as you're teaching them, like, you're feeling something, and here's what it looks like you're feeling, and they're learning from that to identify their emotions. They're learning it's okay to feel, and they're learning it's okay to express. The opposite of a dysfunctional family. Shove them down, don't talk about them, we don't care, and it's best if you don't feel because we don't have to deal with you. That's what happens in a dysfunctional family. So you want to validate and help them identify. And then always listen first. Don't start talking and teaching. Listen, because they have a lot to say. And you're going to learn about what's going on with them when you listen. Even when they get in trouble or something bad happens, you want to listen instead of start talking. And when the lower brain is active, the higher brain is not. It's either or, okay? You're either in your lower brain or you're in your higher brain. When your lower brain is active and you're throwing a fit and you're crying and you're super upset, no words you say are going anywhere, okay? So you're doing nothing more than frustrating your child and causing that child to be more reactive. You have to let them calm down, and then you can you can process it. So when they're screaming, when they're fighting with their brother, that's not the time to give them a lecture about, brotherly love. It's not going anywhere. Okay, so listen first, and when you do talk, you want to ask questions. Open questions, not, did you have a bad day? Yes, no. Are you unhappy? No. You want to ask open questions like, what's going on with you? Can you tell me what made you so upset? Or what did you not like about that? Or what happened at school today? So you want to ask open questions that get you better, longer answers. You want to teach them also what we talked about with the thoughts hold the key to their feelings. Okay, I can tell that you're thinking bad thoughts about your friend, or you're thinking, or whatever it is they say. And it's like, well, what if instead you're thinking that Billy doesn't like you and that's why he's doing that? Like, I have an example where a friend of mine, her daughter was kind of introverted. And she had one friend at school that she hung out with. And then all of a sudden, this friend picked other friends to hang out with, another group of friends. And the introverted one did not feel comfortable jumping in with a group, like a group of 4 girls. So my friend called me and asked me, and she said, what do I do? She's like really hurt. And I said, What about helping her understand that it's okay for her friend to have other friends, and that when she chooses to be around other friends, it doesn't mean that she's not her friend, but that it's okay. Give her that thought so that when she sees her friend with another friend, she can say, you know, my friend has other friends too, but I'm still her friend. What about giving her that thought? And which was really the truth, because the friend wasn't abandoning her. She would still be with her at times, right? And still hang out with her at school, after school. She was still her best friend. So that made a huge difference. So you want to also introduce that. And then you want to teach problem solving by generating alternate ways to handle a feeling or situation. So, okay, so Johnny pushed you, and then you pushed Johnny back. Let's talk about, and I understand, you know, how did you feel? It made me really mad when he pushed me. I'm tired of him doing that. He's done that other times. He does that to lots of kids, right? So he deserved to be pushed. Yeah, I can see why that made sense to you. What are some other ways you could have handled that? And then if they don't come up with any, you say, well, what about this? How would this have worked? How would that work? That is emotional intelligence, and it's resilience, okay? Resilience means that your child's going to feel confident to handle life, because life is going to hit them and push them. And you want them to be resilient. And problem solving, feeling like they can problem solve, is definitely part of being resilient. Now, I just put down some important things to remember about specific emotions. Anger, secondary. Anger is a force for good. So anger is not so bad, because when rights are violated or injustice happens to you or someone else, it's okay to feel angry. God showed us that. And anger also creates a force of readiness, which allows you to respond to things, which is all God-given, protective. And guess what? Animals, insects, reptiles all have the ability to respond to protect themselves. All right? It is absolutely necessary. Fear is a lot of fear is learned from experience, right? Something happens to you, a dog bites you, you are scared of dogs forever. You see a movie where there's a monster under your bed, and now you're afraid of monsters under your bed. So it's also learned from the environment, observing others' reactions, and from the media. So we got to be careful what we let our kids watch. It's also reinforced when it's rewarded by attention and avoidance. So, you know, you're afraid of something, so you don't have to go outside, or you don't have to go do that difficult thing, or you don't have to go to school on that day. So you want to balance being concerned about what they're afraid of and rewarding it by avoidance, instead helping them to deal with it by figuring out ways to face it and figuring out ways to desensitize them to it, which is slowly experiencing it. Or if you're afraid of the dark, you turn off, you know, keep a little light on, and then you can sit in the dark and play games and have a candle and then blow out the candle and sit there. I mean, there's ways to desensitize them to help them get over their fears rather than continually reinforce it where fears. And if the child is very fearful and getting a lot of fears built up, then you can think about maybe a child therapist where they can deal with those at a young age and not help it get way out of control. And then you can also change thoughts for helping with fears. Maybe instead of thinking spiders are scary, we can say, oh, look how cool spiders are. And I used to suck them up with a vacuum and be afraid as I sucked them up with the vacuum. So I understand. And first time we moved to Phoenix in an apartment, I don't ever remember seeing a cricket before. And there was like 14 crickets. And I was talking to my sister, I think, on the phone. And I literally took out pans and things out of a box, and I threw them across the kitchen at crickets, trying to put them over the crickets. I get it. I no longer do that. But I don't slap them with my hand like my mother-in-law did and squish them. Oh, cannot do that. So, okay. And you can give your child Bible verses that help them in their fear. Some personalities are definitely more prone to feel. Guilt is a healthy response to doing something wrong. Shame is a feeling that something's wrong with you. So you don't want to feel shame. Shame says you're a bad person, you're not worth as much other people. But guilt is like you did something wrong, we want to that. But guilt can also be false, like feeling that you did something wrong or something bad when you really didn't, and because your conscience is tweaked or you've had too many things said to you that, oh, when you take care of yourself, you're selfish. Okay? Don't think so much of yourself. Like, no, that would be false guilt. So grief process is necessary. Denial, anger, bargaining, sadness, and then acceptance, all part of the grief process, which you feel anytime you have loss or disappointment, if it was something important to you. And did you hear me say anger and sadness? Two big negative feelings. Okay? So you got to be able to feel those, or you don't work all the way through the grief process, and the end is acceptance. And you want to get to acceptance because that's processing your losses and allowing you to work to the other side of them where you can move through them and move forward. So you got to be able to feel those things. And our kids feel grief too, just differently, and differently at different ages.
Thank you for listening to Change My Relationship. We hope you will subscribe to these podcasts and share them with your friends. Karla would love to hear from you. She welcomes ideas for future podcasts as well as your feedback on how the podcasts have helped your life and relationships. You can email her at karla@changemyrelationship.com. For more information on Change My Relationship and Karla Downing's ministry, including her books, studies, devotionals, podcast, and YouTube videos, visit changemyrelationship.com.